Recently, we finally had another annual Coachella, and amongst the sea of subpar local artists and kias, we got a handful of K-pop acts who had the honor of performing. Lisa and Jennie of Blackpink both had solo stages in honor of the official start of their solo careers, while ENHYPEN made their Coachella debut in front of not only a massive crowd of people in physical attendance, but also over 400,000 concurrent viewers watching on YouTube, the highest record of any K-pop act so far and the second highest in Coachella history. Any blink who tries to tell you otherwise is a liar. Saying k-chella got 2.9 million concurrent viewers when Beyoncé got less than 500k is some nerve. Try that tomfoolery on somebody else. But anyways, onto the performances themselves. Now don't be fooled, even though this is Coachella, where they will literally book anyone who is verified on Instagram, this is still a massive, albeit niche music festival. So a gig at Coachella is practically a one-way ticket into the mainstream West beyond TikTok, to real people. So as a baseline, at a festival like this an artist should be giving 100% and leaving it all on the floor. This isn't like back in the day where there were no cameras to catch your subpar performance. Everyone has a 4K camera in their pocket ready to capture this moment as a hallmark memory of their lives. You're not just performing in a vacuum for a couple thousand people tripped out on overpriced alcohol and whatever suspicious pills their friend gave them. You're performing for the world, for the people who will look through the recesses of their iCloud in a few years' time to watch that video and show it to others and hopefully be able to say they were satisfied with the experience you gave them. That's what we should be able to expect from the artists we platform, but sadly you all have a habit of platforming to certain people from a certain group who have proven time and time again that not only can they not sing live, but that they don't even like performing for you Neanderthals. When has Jennie ever given more than like 60% of her energy on a performance since 2019? I'm genuinely asking. I'd love to see examples. But anyways, on to the rankings. I'll start with ENHYPEN and their score of a respectable 8.5 out of 10. I honestly didn't have very high expectations for ENHYPEN as the Coachella performance of their sister group LE was less than stellar to say the absolute least. But I was pleasantly surprised with ENHYPEN's stage presence and vocal delivery from start to finish. The crowd wasn't half empty like y'all's messy behinds said it was, and the cheers of said crowd were almost louder than the vocals of ENHYPEN themselves. Of course, until the sound team got their act together and fixed it. Using pics of the venue from when the standing room was clearing out from the performance before ENHYPEN trying to say they had an empty crowd is actually crazy. Why do y'all refuse to let men be happy? Why can't boys be celebrated? But I'm getting off track. The members were very skillful in balancing parts of the song where they could put more focus on the choreography and parts where they could slow down and pace themselves without having it feel like the performance was slowing down, which shows just how much practice and attention to detail they put into this gig. The performance was very entertaining despite having the lack of the typical bells and whistles that a massive artist would typically have for their stage. It was simplistic yet well put together and allowed ENHYPEN's skill and talent to speak for themselves. As for vocals, I did hear a few voice cracks and maybe one or two times where one of the members hit a note and was promptly hit back. But I always find little moments like that quite charming because not only does it show that they are singing live, but unlike a lot of people, I don't expect absolute perfection from someone who is singing and dancing at the same time. Overall, the performance was solid for a debut stage, and while I definitely thought HYBE would have put a bit more effort into the set design, lighting, and other things, I can admire the more simplistic, concert-esque route they took as this was their first performance of several over the course of a few days. Next is Lisa with a score of the absolute best I can offer her, a 5.9 out of 10. For starters, she barely moved from her starting position for the whole performance. She would just step to the left, step to the right, and walk up and down those raggedy stairs. I get that since she's a solo performer she has to stay in front at all times, but you'd think that as a dancer she'd want to use the entire stage to her advantage and really show off her moves, but no. She stood in one spot flailing around to the beat, while trying to keep up with the backtrack. Speaking of which, let's talk about Lisa's live vocals, which I can't actually speak on, because I never heard them and neither did anyone else. The backtrack was so loud that I could only really hear Lisa straining and fighting for her life to be heard a handful of times, and there were at least 2 or 3 instances per song where she would just drop the mic for a hot minute and let the backtrack sing for her while she did one of 3 things. Swap what hand her mic was in, catch her breath, which is concerning for a professional singer to lack the ability to manage their breathing while singing, especially with such lackluster and, dare I say, easy choreography, or just to do something completely random to make it look like she was engaged. Lisa, this ain't drag race, stop lip syncing for your life, baby. But anyways, as for stage presence, Lisa was not giving her all in any way, shape, or form. Her dancers were doing more dancing than the alleged pro dancer Lisa, which is crazy considering she was once K-pop's best girl group dancer. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. And lastly, one thing that really confused me from a stage direction standpoint is this really awkward part at the end of the performance of Lifestyle, where the male backup dancers just awkwardly stand in front of Lisa doing God knows what while the female dancers remove the extra parts of Lisa's outfit. It was so clunky and broke the immersion of the performance so bad. As for the outfits, I really enjoyed all of them except for the one for the performance of Chill. That was absolutely horrendous. The crusty mesh poorly color matched to her skin instead of just making the fabric translucent is wild. It's giving cheap Party City mermaid costume, but we lost the tail in transit. And last, and certainly the least, is Jennie with a low, but respectable score of 5.2 out of 10. Jennie's Coachella performance had the live vocals that Lisa's stage lacked, but lacked the aura and cool vibe that she was so obviously trying to achieve. It carried the same stale, corny, and generic bad girl rebrand that was the pitfall of her Western debut to begin with. It's sad, honestly. One thing I will say is that she actually sounded pretty okay despite looking like she just woke up hungover 5 minutes before the performance with them big old Morpheus glasses on. Vocally, she did struggle quite a bit during Sin and FTS, desperately trying to stay on key like she was treading water, which was difficult to hear considering how good I know she can sound. And for the rap-heavy songs, she would do the same thing Lisa did by dropping the mic at certain points to let the backtrack sing for her, but 1,000 times worse. She barely sang half the song. She would drop the mic at least once every measure and then jump back in by yelling some random ad-lib instead of singing. It was just strange. And don't even get me started on the performance of Damn Right. It was just sad. From the fact that you could barely hear Jennie and when you could hear her she was once again straining, to the fact that almost nothing was actually happening on the stage because of the painfully slow choreography. It was so boring. And that's not even to mention that for some songs like Mantra and Extra L, she was just blatantly lip-syncing, spoiling the gag by shouting some random ad-lib every 10 seconds or just straight up not even moving her mouth. In terms of stage presence, Jennie looked like she had just rolled out of bed. It was like she didn't even really want to be up there, but had to be because it was too late to back out. She lacked so much confidence and energy. Her movements were stiff and awkward, lacking any semblance of fluidity or coordination. As for positive things, I will say I really enjoyed the remix of Mantra, and the version of Extra L without Dochi. The outfits were beautiful and stylish, and the set design was adequate. It was a fairly novel and enjoyable performance in spite of Jennie's obvious regression and lack of ability to do any basic performer things anymore. Now, in light of Lisa and Jennie's Coachella stages, many people were somehow surprised by their suspicious performance quality and heavy use of lip-syncing and backing tracks, to the point a lot of people were calling for the criticisms given to Les Sserafim at their Coachella debut to be retracted and to offer them an apology, which is unbelievably funny considering after Les Sserafim's Coachella debut, they were so bad that many called to retract the criticism given to aespa on their Coachella debut, and before that, aespa's Coachella debut was so bad that people called to apologize to Blackpink for the criticism of their Coachella debut. The jokes literally write themselves. There is no need for any apologies or takebacks. They sucked then, they suck now, and may just suck a little more in the future. The suckiness we saw a year ago doesn't suddenly not suck because somebody sucked harder. And you may say, oh well, at least Leslie didn't use backtrack, honey. Not using a backtrack means nothing if your raw vocals don't sound good. I'd rather hear an auto-tuned backtrack turned up to 100 than a bunch of girls struggling to hit even a single note and manage their breathing. Seriously, when are we going to stop platforming girl groups who struggle to sing, struggle to dance, and lack stage presence by making their generic music so popular that they get once-in-a-lifetime gigs only to give barely half the effort they're capable of? All of you all look like fools because you are. You're fools for supporting these artists and not expecting more from them, just mindlessly eating up whatever TikTok microtrend slop they give you and letting their pretty faces and pretty voices distract you from the fact that they can't do the most important part of their job: perform. And it's only girl groups you all do this with, mind you. Let a boy group member get caught using a backtrack, or lip syncing, or being slightly out of sync with his members for the first time out of all of their near-perfect performances. He'll get bashed and called untalented for weeks, and certain girl group stans will take it and run with it as proof that boy groups are all untalented. Meanwhile, there's a new example every day of girl groups being barely able to execute the bare minimum for a music artist, and when someone points it out and says they need practice, suddenly there's thousands of hive-minded NPCs coming to their delusional defense and calling anyone who criticizes them a hater or misogynist instead of doing what a real fan does and saying, hey, maybe they do need to improve in this area, and be done with it. Now, of course, I understand why mediocre girl groups like Blackpink and LE are always first in line to be chosen to perform at Coachella. Their heavily inflated popularity and rejection of the K-pop sound for watered-down music tailored for the West makes them the most relevant names to the mostly North American local NPC crowd that's gonna show up. It's a solid strategy, albeit very disappointing since the quality of music being released is always genshin suspicious quality, but I understand the strategy and I can't blame them for it. The Western taste is very profitable and has its admirable traits, but it's still such cheap sellout behavior to abandon the unique concepts and sounds that used to make them special and instead use the novelty of being an Asian group to waste everybody's time and sell Westerners slightly less interesting versions of what they already hear on their local radio stations. Please, I beg of you all, stop giving every carbon copy medium rare quality girl group more than their designated 15 minutes of TikTok fame. I'm telling you right now. Y'all finna mess around and send Baby Monster to Coachella. No shade to my favorite YG girls, I'm just being realistic. Now for the coveted ranking of slaeyong's current top 10 releases. Most of these songs were very enjoyable to me and really stuck with me for the duration of April, May and June, even those at the bottom which, despite not being my favorites, still had qualities that kept me engaged. As for the honorable top 3, we have Set Up Go by Gravity, Take Over by 82 Major, and Da by P1 Harmony. Beyond just being the work of my old group, Dumb has many qualities that made it my top song and release for this quarter. It is by no means P1 Harmony's best work, but it still manages to create a satisfactory listening experience that I keep on coming back to. The title track is a West Coast hip-hop inspired track that maintains P1's unique soundscape and flair with interesting samples and eclectic vocal delivery showcasing each member's personal style, creating a whimsical yet swaggy atmosphere. The B-sides are P1's usual pick and mix bag of tracks that lack direction and synthesis genre-wise, but are unified by the signature style of the artists themselves. My favorite songs on the mini-album apart from the title track are Over and Over, Work, and Murmur. Hands down, I have no complaints about these songs. As for the other two, I really enjoy Pretty Boy from a musical and lyrical standpoint, but compared to other songs P1 has made in this similar reggaeton adjacent pseudo-afrobeat genre, it really doesn't stand out all that much. However, I still really enjoy it, and out of all the songs to promote in addition to Da, it was the best choice. Flashy simply gets a participation trophy from me. It's easily overshadowed by the other tracks on the album and sounds far too similar to one of their older tracks, Doom to Doom, while falling short in its pursuit to recreate that thematic energy and soul that Doom to Doom executed so well. That said, it's still a pleasant earworm and I feel like it holds a necessary spot on the track list. Oh, and just in case you're curious, here are some non-K-pop releases I also enjoyed through the second quarter of 2025, they're not in any particular order, or maybe they secretly are, it's up to you to decide. Now on to my new segment, The Big Three, where I, the illustrious slaeyong, discuss one bad song, one mid song, and one incredible song that was released in this quarter. Let's dive into it.
Hottie, hottie, like a bag of Takis. I'm the shit. I'm the shit.
Gnarly is a formulaic hyperpop track that excels musically, and falls flat on its face in every other aspect. The lyrics, while intentionally satirical and quirky, leave much to be desired even for a mindless pop track, and the obnoxious line delivery by the artists themselves just makes the listening experience 1,000 times more unpleasant and borderline disorienting. In my personal opinion, Gnarly genuinely would have had the potential to catapult Cat's Eye to a higher level of fame if they didn't put so much focus on the song being shocking and controversial, as it just ends up feeling like those are excuses made to cover up the fact that they simply dropped the ball and assumed fans would eat the slop, which many people sadly did, but not enough to get everyone to cope their way into liking the song. But anyways, with having released this song so early in their career, if executed properly, this concept change could have been a much needed boost, but instead it just put a bad taste in the mouths of their fans who knew them for a quieter, more generic pop sound and those who don't even know them yet, turning away potential fans. Now typically, when your target demographic responds poorly to the product you serve them, the last thing you want to do is blame them for not liking it. However, that is exactly what the members of Cat's Eye chose to do.
The song's so good. We're so proud of it.
Are they not liking it?
Well, that's okay. I'm
What'd
proud
you
of
see?
it.
It's different, I understand.
If you get it, you get it. Listen, I know it's jarring, but it's like so cool.
If you get it, you get it, and if you don't get it, kindly get the fuck away from us.
Yeah.
These are not solely faceless haters. For the most part, these are your biggest fans telling you hey, your song sucks, and your response is to tell them to get away from you as if they are the problem? Embarrassing. And then we have borderline delusional glazers calling these girls and their teen geniuses for this train wreck of a song. Girl, let's be serious, there is nothing genius about such a common publicity stunt. It's the oldest trick in the book, at least in the Western music scene. They attempted a crazy rebrand, it blew up in their faces, and now they're being sore losers about it. Typical. And what's even more disappointing than the track itself is some of Cat's Eye's fans who refuse to face the truth and accept the reality that no one truly likes this song. They've done everything from cyberbullying to leaving delusional comments on posts of people expressing their disappointment, and more recently, this bizarre trend of calling things gnarly as a sad pathetic attempt to turn gnarly into a trend comparable to the brat phenomenon of last summer. Like how you'd say someone or something is brat, instead they'd say it's gnarly. It's inorganic and just plain uncool. Now, I do understand that Cat's Eye probably feel quite discouraged at the backlash against gnarly, since that's their song, their art, their baby. But let's be realistic here, obviously not every fan is going to enjoy every song their fave puts out, but when the sentiment of fans and the general public is so overwhelmingly skewed in one direction, I think it's safe to say you done goofed, and you need to course correct. Since Cat's Eye is the last semi-good Western girl group alive since the moderately tragic disbandment of Boys World, I honestly want them to succeed in some meaningful way. But considering their questionable management, the fact that the most popular members are PR nightmares, their constant pandering to remedy controversy, and the fact that their music is growing more and more generic and soulless, Cat's Eye's double combo of pretty privilege and company privilege may not be able to carry them much farther. Pop Pop by NCT Wish is definitely the group's most sonically interesting release to date, but the song suffers structurally and musically for a number of reasons. The verses and pre-chorus feel fluid and cohesive, blending well into one another, but the chorus is strangely out of place. It's a jarring, anthematic chant that doesn't feel like it's even a part of the same song. The chorus is supposed to be the satisfying cherry on top of a good ice cream base that is the verses, but Pop Pop's chorus is less of a sweet cherry, and more of a cherry bomb that explodes in your face, leaving you dazed, confused, and disoriented. The final chorus is the only time this loud, obnoxious chant actually sounds and feels good. It fits better as the strong, grand finale to a song as opposed to the main event. As for the instrumental, I really enjoy the production of this song. However, I feel like the transitions between genres could be a bit more fluid and are only truly unified by the vocals, which I guess is a good thing, but typically, producers and composers tend to avoid such sudden transitions between verses for a reason. It's often too jarring and can make the song feel jumbled and all over the place. I think they did a good job of arranging the song and directing the vocals in order to avoid this, but it still kind of feels like each individual section belongs to a different song, but maybe that's a positive quality to some. Takeover by 82 Major has been quite a divisive song in the Nuku and mainstream K-pop spheres, but is one of my favorite releases of the quarter for many reasons. For starters, the song has a clear path and structure. It sets out to do one thing, and doesn't just do it, but does it well. Much like pop, the vocals on Takeover are what help the song smoothly oscillate between genres instead of giving the listener whiplash with every verse, pre-chorus, and chorus. But that doesn't mean the production doesn't deserve credit either. The way the instrumental blends each section of the song together aid a lot in the flow of the song, so despite utilizing trap, drum and bass, drill, and R&B, it never feels like we're taking any odd detours as the song progresses. Now, as 82 Major is a rap-focused group, Takeover has a lower emphasis on vocals and puts the groovy flows and charismatic delivery of each member on center stage. The rapping styles and line delivery of the members may not be everyone's cup of tea, but one thing the public will never be able to say is that my boys cannot trap, especially not y'all girl group stans. How you gon' say Sungmo can trap when your standard is twice as Chaeyoung? Genshin version 5.7 brought a decent amount of content to hold us over until the beginning arc of Not Cry. 2 new characters, a new permanent endgame event that caters to meta lovers, a new quest line, and a rerun for a character we all forgot was in the game. I won't speak on the quest content as to avoid giving spoilers, so my only focus for this segment will be the new voice actor for Paimon. I absolutely love Paimon's new voice. The old VA, Karina made Paimon just sound too ditzy, annoying, and clueless when Paimon's role is meant to be a wise travel guide to the main character. While I like Karina's version of Paimon for many reasons, her tone and manner of delivering the lines made Paimon feel like an immature dunce, and didn't match the role Paimon is supposed to play in the traveler's journey. Her new voice makes her sound clever and poised while still keeping her quirky, silly, and playfully annoying energy.
The Kaholasaurs are so nice and so fun to play with! Their bellies are super bouncy! Oh, and Atea's snacks were so delicious! She gave Paimon some for the road just this morning, actually! Oh no! Don't look at Paimon like that! We are not the same weight class, and no way is Paimon competing against you! Traveler, let's just help with the patrol, alright? Otherwise, Yan-san's gonna make Paimon enter a bodybuilding competition!
For those who are unaware, the reason the English voice actor for Paimon, as well as Keqing and perhaps a few other characters in the near future are being replaced is because these voice actors engaged in an illegal wildcat strike against Hoyoverse, and essentially pretended to be a part of the real SAG-AFTRA union strike to attempt to force Hoyoverse to sign a contract with SAG-AFTRA to make Genshin, as well as Honkai Star Rail and Zenless's own Zero Union games, which would put severe, stifling limits on Hoyoverse as a company and prevent them from casting the voice actors they want and working with whatever VA studios they prefer at their own discretion. Overall, I'm so happy with the new voice for Paimon, and I can't wait until all the recasting is said and done so we can finally know who this amazing VA is. On April 23rd, a wallpaper asset in SM's rhythm game Superstar SM Town was published, showing a group photo of Rise from their debut, Memories, having been edited by SM to exclude Sinhan. You can clearly tell based on the shadow on Sung Chan's shirt that doesn't make any sense. It's Sinhan's shadow. While I understand the contractual obligation SM has to remove Sinhan from certain media involving Rise since he can sue them for using his likeness while he is inactive, it doesn't change how badly it sucks for Breeze to see that specific picture out of all the photos of Rise that exist without him in it. I know it's just SM following the rules, but it also represents how quickly people can be erased when their absence benefits those at the top. Despite how long it's been since Sinhan's departure and SM's refusal to acknowledge the existence of both global and Korean breezes who want him back, I don't think the fight to preserve Sinhan's spot and rise is fruitless just yet. Our chances may be low, but low isn't zero, and if Sinhan is still practicing and gearing up to come back to us, we should keep fighting and preparing to welcome him back. On May 15th, i-dle had the honor of performing at the annual Sogang University Festival in Seoul, where during an intermission, the MC was asking the students in attendance if there were any birthday boys or girls in the crowd, to which a raggedy New Jeans fan shouted that it was the birthday of New Jeans member, Ren. In case you've been living under a rock for the past year, New Jeans and i-dle have had something of an internal rivalry since i-dle's debut. And since i-dle was the group that New Jeans threw under the bus and lied about to fabricate evidence for their injunction against HYBE, it makes sense that none of the i-dle's fans, who were present, were having this fans nonsense, leading to nearly unanimous booing. Hilarious. On May 11th, New Jeans member Danielle decided to add to her group's rap sheet of illegal promotions by holding a fan sign after services at a church in Brisbane, Australia. While many are saying that it was a spontaneous and coincidental event, considering how many New Jeans fans were in attendance and the fact that many of them had merch, photo cards, and albums for her to sign, I think it's safe to say that's not the case. Who on earth is just bringing a photo card to church? The only photo card I bring to church is the one that is absent-mindedly attached to my purse keychain as a decoration. I'm not going around every Sunday making sure I pack my photo cards or an album with me just in case Jackson pops by and has a Sharpie on him. Now I'm not gonna yap too much about how this is New Jeans' umpteenth time violating their contract with Adore. What I want to focus on is the fact that she chose to hold this event at a church, a place of worship. As a Christian, she should know that is a holy place. The church is not meant to be a venue for secular events, as in things that don't pertain to Christianity or don't glorify God. That fan sign was not glorifying or honoring God, it was glorifying her. As a Christian myself, I found this a bit disappointing but not at all surprising, considering this now makes New Jeans the second hype girl group to use a church as a venue for an improper event. I'm not gonna sit up here and say she needs to repent and beg God for forgiveness so she won't end up burnt to a crisp. I'm not that kind of Christian who likes to point fingers as if I'm so perfect. God explicitly advises against that anyways. But God also says to discern things and call them as they are, and what Danielle did was disrespectful and disappointing. Not to mention that this event happened in the wake of the ongoing Christian genocide in Nigeria, the most notable attack occurring this past April in which over 100 Christians were slain in the span of 2 weeks, and just this past Sunday, which as I'm writing this was the 25th of May, another estimated 42 people, mostly Christians, were targeted and killed. I know it may be a nitpick, but considering what's happening to Christians in the world right now and the fact that New Jeans isn't even supposed to be holding schedules right now, this wasn't the smartest thing in the world to do, and I hope Danielle has taken time to reflect. On May 25th, some underpaid and likely millennial writer for the Seattle Times wrote an article about Stray Kids' recent concert at T-Mobile Park, and based on my personal read-through of the article, gave an overall positive review of their performance apart from one single sentence that has rubbed people the wrong way. In the third paragraph of the article, the author refers to K-pop as not as ubiquitous as American pop music and describes Stray Kids themselves as being, quote, practically grown in a lab to appeal to Generation TikTok's anemic attention spans. Both of which are simply hilarious things to hear from the mouth of an American music critic when we all know the industrialization and commodification of music and art are Western advents. Let's not forget that Western shows like America's Got Talent, The X Factor, and American Idol skyrocketed the survival talent show concept into ubiquity, which is why we even have shows like Girls Planet, Produce 101, and Stray Kids to begin with. I wouldn't go so far as to call it xenophobic as many overdramatic K-pop stans have thus far, as it's entirely possible to be tone deaf and state something obviously inaccurate and misguided without being bigoted. Y'all just love jumping to the worst case scenario. This single sentence of a larger article that, mind you, continued to rave about Stray Kids' performance and speak positively about them, is just a funny example of someone throwing stones in a glass house, but also, how easily a lot of K-pop stans let one part of a greater picture move them to acting irrationally. On May 27th, aespa's Karina made an Instagram post where she was wearing a red and black jacket that had the number 2 on the right side, including a rose emoji in the caption. At first glance, this post is very normal and mundane until you add the cultural context. This post was made during election season in South Korea, and as of this video's upload, South Korea's election is already concluded. During Korea's election season, celebrities and other apolitical public figures refrain from certain acts that could be considered as condoning a certain party or candidate, for example not wearing red or blue and not holding the number 1 or a peace sign, which could be interpreted as the number 2. If you're an American like me, this sounds kinda crazy considering how celebrity endorsements are pivotal parts of the political landscape here in America, although that seems to be rightfully dying down, but in Korea, celebrity endorsement of political parties or politicians is not viewed as normal and is frowned upon to prevent influencers from skewing public opinion and therefore, the results of the election. So Karina knew exactly what she was doing when she posted that. Not only with the red jacket and the number 2, which are already tied to Korea's Conservative Party, but even going out of her way to include a rose emoji in the caption, the rose being a sort of logo for Korea's Conservative Party. Now, do I personally find this to be an issue that global aespa fans should be worried about? Absolutely not. While I think it was kinda lame of her to do and not the smartest way to be open about your politics, which she has every right to do, at the end of the day this is between her and the Korean population. K-politics is none of my little American business. My main focus is the outrage from Western stands that's directed at Karina and people calling for her to be cancelled, primarily the usual Twitter brain-rotted suspects. I guarantee if Karina had been wearing a blue jacket with the number 1 on it, representing Korea's Liberal Party, considering that liberal ideology is the favorite of those of Gen Z who grift on Twitter for increased social credit, there would have been no such outrage over her choice to express her political beliefs in such a way. In fact, we probably would have seen the usual, borderline xenophobic sentiment of, oh typical Koreans, too bigoted and sensitive, and then probably calling her a liberal queen or something else lame. But no, since the person you chose to idolize and put on a pedestal dared to express beliefs that differ from yours, suddenly she needs to be corrected. Y'all are embarrassing. Just say you can't cope with the fact that she broke your immersion. Is what she did irresponsible knowing the social and cultural context of that action? Absolutely, she could have chosen any day out of the year to discuss her politics, but she chose to post this just days before an election. She should face at least some social consequences for that. But punishing her for her presumed beliefs? No way. Wrong think isn't a crime. Disagreeing with you isn't a crime. I know this is by no means a one-to-one example, but last November you all drooped over Ning Ning when she wore that shirt with a bunch of buzzwords on it because Frank Ocean made it cool. A political statement even more fake, grifty, and corny than Karina's, but arguably more tasteful since she knew not to post such a thing in the midst of some important political event. She may be the Magni who disrespects the culture of the country she's a guest in, but she's not stupid, I'll give her that. And don't even get me started on the aespa fans trying to desperately grab at an excuse for her actions and trying to act as if she didn't know the significance of a rule in her own culture. I don't have words for those dullius. Let's move on. Kim Garam, the former singer who successfully escaped Lesserfilm, has recently re-emerged by opening a personal Instagram account, posting a few crumbs for all who missed her. As of July, she has over 750,000 followers and counting, which is lovely to see considering her career as a singer ended on such a sour note. I'm glad to see her back, perhaps as an actress or singer since many people pointed out that her account is marked as professional on Social Blade. My girl will always be famous, praying she doesn't let her angelic vocal cords go to waste. Whenever she wants to re-debut, I'll be there. A lot of Neverlands are in the year 2025, just now realizing that having one member be the sole producer and creative director of a group probably isn't actually a good idea. With many people stating that the members of i-dle, apart from Soyeon, seem uncomfortable and unhappy while promoting their recent releases, titled Good Thing and Girlfriend. Fans aren't complaining that the members aren't performing well or aren't trying, but that they don't seem to be enjoying themselves or melding with the concept that well, which is an obvious issue that has been present and brushed off since i-dle's debut in 2018. people with eyes have been calling i-dle slaeyong and friends for 7 years, and you're just now realizing that there are issues with the representation of the members in their concepts, promotions, and creative direction? Please give me a break. Slaeyong's monopoly over this group and Cube's favoritism toward her has always held i-dle back, from Cube's inability to properly promote the other members' solos but giving Slaeyong all the resources she needs, to kicking out Soojin over the smallest controversy, but keeping quiet about Slaeyong and her incessant need to be a PR nightmare at least 3 times a year. Not to mention how Slaeyong's creative and musical direction has caused a severe drop in their popularity recently, since their last few releases have not only lacked substantial quality, but all rehash the same TikTok feminist concept in different, albeit equally exhausting fonts. Gone are the days of Han, Senorita, and Tomboy. i-dle is no longer an up-and-coming K-pop powerhouse who could rule the industry if they wanted to. They're a struggling semi-nuku group who have run out of ideas and are constantly trying to come up with lame ways to keep themselves relevant while the exceptional talent of their members goes to waste. And it's all Slaeyong and Cube's fault. And y'all's goofy selves sat and wondered why Shuhwa said she couldn't wait for that contract to end. Recently a TikTok went viral comparing 2 instances of K-pop groups performing in the rain. The first was a Vive, showing them on stage performing under tents, and the second clip showed Blackpink frolicking on the wet stage with no tents or anything like that, having a blast, essentially to disparage and make it seem as if they cared less about performing than Blackpink. This of course led to the usual uproar of Blackpink is the best group ever, who always cares so much about their fans, and Wonyoung is a stuck-up preppy narcissist who probably just wanted to protect her makeup. I, however, have an alternate perspective. You see, dancing on a wet stage is what one could call dangerous. It's all fun and games until somebody slips and injures themselves. The tents that IVE's team put on this stage were not for vanity, it's the bare minimum of safety precautions. Blackpink's team neglected to prepare the necessary precautions, letting them perform on a wet, slippery stage. So at the end of the day, what matters more? Your favorite artist appeasing your high standards, or your favorite artist being protected so they don't slip and die? I'd hope it's the latter. Ramzi Ismail, known online as Johnny Somali, is an iShowSpeed wannabe streamer who likes to travel to Asian nations and be a nuisance to the locals there for spare change from his racist audience. Allegedly. He has already wreaked havoc on Thailand, Israel, Indonesia, and Japan, but the straw that broke the camel's back was his decision to continue his shenanigans in South Korea. If you want to know the bulk of his horrendously disrespectful and racist cloud-chasing tactics, I suggest watching Stephanie Sue's miniseries on him on the Rotten Mango channel, or Atozi's much more up-to-date coverage of his trials, but for now, I'll give you the main points. His most notable shenanigan while in Korea was an instance where he behaved inappropriately with Korea's Statue of Peace, a monument honoring the Korean women who were subjected to, let's just say inappropriate, war crimes at the hands of the Japanese during World War II. Since then, he has faced near non-stop violent attacks from Korean men acting alone, or in teams, who either actively searched for him to hurt him, or happened to find him by chance. That hasn't stopped him though, and even through his court proceedings and judicial process, he has not stopped making content and finding new ways to get arrested and cause buzz. He has pleaded guilty to over half of his current charges but is still collecting them for some reason, so he'll be attending trials for a while. Unfortunately, the issue of nuisance streamers and bad faith tourists, the majority of which sadly happen to be black or other people of color, has been an ever-growing problem in many East Asian nations for a few years now, with Japan being hit the hardest by this startling trend.
The next person to come to this vending machine is getting hit with this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. This is like a whole block of shit. Do it, I'll drop 100 subs, you know I will. So drop the 100 subs, because I'm gonna do it more than now that, fuck it, drop the 100 subs. Drop the 100 subs. This dude right here that looks like he's having a nice day. See me, Marcel?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hug.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go to my side.
What's wrong with you?
Wait, what?
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I just threw a snowball.
Yeah, why? Why?
I hope Johnny Somali can be made into a proper example to dissuade anyone who wishes to use the stereotypically quiet and docile culture of East Asian countries to wreak havoc. It's crazy what people will do for money and attention. The debut of All-Day project exceeded my expectations in almost every area. I expected more lazy black liberal slop like they give to Meow, but I was wrong, so wrong. The production was captivating and the method of line distribution was satisfying and novel, giving each member their own verse as opposed to swapping members each couple of sentences like usual. However, the biggest pitfall of this song is the painfully lazy and corny lyrics. I don't know what it is about K-pop companies just accepting the first draft that's handed to them without even running the thing through Grammarly, but it needs to stop. As for the members themselves, I can't say I'm too fond of the members from a vocal standpoint. The only members that really stick out to me are Woo-chan and Youngso. Tarzan shows some promise of potential and brings an interesting color to the group, but Bailey and Danny really aren't offering anything vocally that I can't get from another group. They blend into the background. Meanwhile, the other three members bring such unique personas and flavors to the group. They honestly just feel like filler members, which is a massive waste on the Black Label's part considering how good of performers they are. I don't think it's necessarily just an issue with their talent, but also mismatch of concepts. Annie and Bailey seem more suited to a dark mode girly girl concept, perhaps like Gukuden, Blackpink, or WJSN's newer releases. In the case of Tarzan, however, he is lacking in skill as I suspected, yet not as much as I initially thought. His rap delivery is smooth and laid back, yet missing a level of energy and confidence that I know he's capable of giving just from the way he carries himself when performing. I love the style, charisma, and flavor he brings to the group. He just needs the time to properly hone his musical skill, aka, stop popping these artists out with 5 minutes of training. I know the landlord is not pounding on YG's door, they can afford to let these people marinate for a few more months before shoving them along on the conveyor belt of stardom. Same goes for Annie and Bailey. While I largely suspect that what's holding them back is a conceptual mismatch like I mentioned, I doubt they would look and sound this out of place if the Black Label just let them train some more.
It's happened again. Another sign language interpreter accused of signing total gibberish.